Tuesday, December 29th, 2015. Derek Davis here with Rob Vino, sportsbettingtoday.us and Rob Vino Sports. Rob, 4 games on the card today. Let's go with the second game here, 243, 244. Baylor, North Carolina. North Carolina, a 3-point favorite in this one, total of 69. Game opened at Baylor -2 and a total of 69.5. 5:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff time for this one, Rob, from the Citrus Bowl, the Russell Athletic Bowl in Orlando, Florida. Really the story in this one, the injuries for Baylor, quarterback down to their third team or fourth team quarterback at this point, possibly. Running back Shock Linwood, probable. Wide receiver Corey Coleman is out. Baylor is straight up losers, 3 of their last 4. 1-5 their last 5 tries against the number. North Carolina, on the other hand, Larry Fedora's team, was playing as well as anybody in the country before the ACC championship game, where they kind of ran into a buzzsaw there with Clemson. Lost that one 45-37, straight up and against the spread. Tar Heels were a 5.5-point underdog in that game. North Carolina 8-5 against the spread this year, Rob. 10-2 straight up. They only lost to the 2 teams from South Carolina. They lost to Steve Spurrier, the University of South Carolina, first game of this season, and also then again lost to Clemson, as we mentioned. Blood in the water here for Baylor. Art Briles, Baylor's head coach, always has nice schemes, nice plan. He's a well thought of offensive mind. But only so much you can do with your best players on the bench. Defensively this year, Rob, Baylor has been Baylor. They gave up a lot of yards, a lot of points. Looks like for a nice spot here for Larry Fedora and the Tar Heels to get back on track with a win. But we have seen good quarterback play at different times of the year from everyone that Art Briles has had back there. If they can get someone, Rob, under center, so to speak, that can get comfortable, they do have a chance in this one, although it's tough to go either way with that many injuries on one of the opponents. But Baylor here against a team that very well could be a double-digit underdog in a neutral site game like this if Baylor was at full strength. So my question to you, Rob, is does Baylor have any value here at all, catching points?
Yeah, it would appear somebody's finding value now, Derek. This game getting bet down to North Carolina -2. Of course, Baylor opened -2. You know, my power ratings initially for this game suggested that North Carolina was a half a point better, so North Carolina should be, that Baylor should be the half-point favorite rather than -2. So that came all the way to North Carolina as high as 4 we saw this morning. Pretty sizable move, now back to 2. And there's some things going on here with the Baylor Bears. First off, the injuries are what they are, and they're devastating injuries. When you lose your top wide receiver, Corey Coleman, who's going to go in the first round of the NFL draft, when you lose your top running back, Shock Linwood, when you've lost both of your top quarterbacks, losing Seth Russell was one thing. At that point in time, most folks downgraded Baylor knowing that the freshman Jarrett Stidham was going to be the quarterback. The Baylor personnel and the Baylor coaching staff had the ultimate faith in Stidham. Did a pretty nice job, but then he gets hurt. And here you are with your third-team quarterback, Chris Johnson, who, plays the rest of the game where Stidham got hurt, starts against Texas, gets knocked out in the second quarter with a slight concussion. Baylor was down to their fourth quarterback against Texas. Obviously, they lose that game. Their offensive production suffered the last couple of weeks, but against Oklahoma State, Johnson did throw a couple of touchdowns in relief of Stidham. Here, Art Briles is not a head coach that's going to go into one of these bowl games and lay down. It's just not Art Briles' nature. Going to find a way to score points, and from everything I've read and everything that I've heard, Baylor has worked an awful lot on wildcat style offense here with Johnson. Remember, Johnson's a high school quarterback, converted to wide receiver this year at Baylor, now having to play quarterback out of necessity, 6'5" with really good running skills. So Baylor probably throwing something at North Carolina here that they're not able to prepare for. Baylor, I mean, when did they ever show Wildcat style offense as part of their repertoire? We know that the remaining receivers, while they're not Corey Coleman, when you have Katie Cannon and Jay Lee, you're still explosive. Baylor does have explosive backs behind Shock Linwood. So I think that, while the injuries situation is, devastating, as I said earlier, I don't think it's to the point where Baylor can't score points against North Carolina defense, which, let's face it, they're better because Gene Chizik came in his first year and helped them to be better, but they're still not what you would consider to be an above average style of defense. They got lit up by Clemson. NC State put points on them. So when faced with credible foes on the offensive side, they have given up points this year. Some of that due to the fact that they score so quickly as well. Their offense ranked #1 in the nation as far as yards per play are concerned, 7.3 yards per play. It's interesting to note, Derek, that while the line moved tremendously from Baylor on an opener of -2 all the way to as high as North Carolina -4, as I mentioned earlier, there's been take back within the last 60 minutes to UNC -2, but the total did not go down. The line moved due to the Baylor injuries. Everybody jumped on North Carolina, but money didn't think that there would be less points scored because of these injuries. And the total hangs in that 69, 69 and a half area, which shows you that, most uh, of the bigger money, the smart money, so to speak, figures Baylor will score some points here. I just happen to be of the belief that Art Briles won't lay down. I think North Carolina at -2 now is probably the right side. I think they can win this game by a field goal. I think it'll be a pretty tough contest. Russell Athletic Bowl here in Orlando. You're going to get decent weather in Orlando. There's always the threat of some type of rain, but I don't think it's going to be disabling to either style of offense here. I'd look for Baylor, North Carolina to be very competitive. Art Briles would have it no other way. Larry Fedora would have it no other way. The new intricacies put into the offense by Baylor could help. But I think at -2, North Carolina probably now shows us a little more value. Win the game by a field goal, probably the way I would lean in that one.